I have played WoW 2, and I would like to hear your thoughts about WoW raids versus Final Fantasy raids. I think the only thing in Final Fantasy that WoW has and Final Fantasy doesn't have, the only good thing, I would say, or potentially good thing, is something like the Blasphemy on Anduin, where you have this incredibly complex problem. You could literally sit days and days and think about it. And you don't have to. You can play it without as well. You can just go with intuition and with instincts and clear the Blasphemy. This is a debuff that where all the raid members get either a color A or the color B. The people that have color A need to go to people with color B to clear their debuff, otherwise they explode. If you collide with somebody who has the same color, both color A's, then they also explode. So they either have to clear it, and they can't touch other people. On Mythic, you can also not touch other people who don't even have any debuff. You know, once they have cleared, they're still obstacles for you. So something like this becomes, you know, it's not that hard when it's 8 people, like in Final Fantasy, but when it's 20 people, this becomes crazy hard to solve optimally and with as little risk as possible. To the extent where you would almost say it's just better to just YOLO it unless you have a really good plan. Something like this does not really exist in Final Fantasy, I think. It's a lot more mathematical, symmetric, which makes a lot of it much easier to solve. This is also mathematical, but it's way harder math because it's not, you know, symmetric things and a lot more people involved. So I think that creates some really hard problems in WoW. But in return, you can test out your things on PTR and see and get a glimpse of it. If you would get this, like, you know, on World First release date, and you would have no idea that it was coming, you would be quite surprised, and it would be very, very hard to deal with. You could increase the seconds that you get to solve it, which would be probably the way to do it then. So TL, they are really, really hard problems to solve. However, I never played Ultimates, so I cannot say that. I don't know. I've been told that Ultimate does have these massive puzzles, yet I think it will still be symmetric in Final Fantasy, most of the solutions. However, in WoW, it will be more, I don't know, what's the asymmetric, I guess, the solutions. Not that that is a good thing necessarily. Symmetric gameplay looks really cool. So maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. But yeah, so far I didn't see like some super complex puzzles in Final Fantasy. I don't necessarily say that as a good or bad thing. It could be a good thing. I don't know. But we'll see how it goes on Ultimates, and then I can say more. Aside from that, in WoW, I think the DPS cooldowns in Final Fantasy is really great. That WoW does not have, where you have to play as a team instead of as an individual. We have only power infusion in this game, and it's a complete mess. It's the reasons why some people will G-quit. It's crazy. But you were asking for things that Final Fantasy doesn't have. Unless you're using plugins, add-on support, which again may be good and may be bad in some cases. I think it's bad, but some people might really like it, right? WoW completely allows add-ons, whereas Final Fantasy is strictly against it, and it's basically hacking the game if you do it. Aside from that, for raiding, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I guess the 20-man raiding is making WoW quite hard. Spells are much deadlier in WoW. You can die without failing anything. In Final Fantasy, unless you fail something, you don't really die. Not that easily, at least. In WoW, you definitely can. You can not fail anything, but still die. You have a lot more personals in WoW, which Final Fantasy doesn't have. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And that's a recent development in WoW as well. I have not seen in Final Fantasy any modifications to your spells with some like gear sets or something that you need to collect and evolve it. You just reach max level and that's it. I don't know, again, if that's a good or bad thing. I think there's some room for improvement there. But at the same time, it feels really good to play the game. So, and I really like the fact that you don't have to grind it all out all day to be able to play it. So I don't think I would change it. I do think 20-man raiding Savage would be really, really fun. It is a shame, in my opinion, that that does not exist. Probably the only big thing that WoW has, which Final Fantasy lacks, in terms of raiding. We're only talking about raiding, boys. Yeah, I'm not looking at like Pokemon battles and card games and stuff. I'm not looking at that at all. There's a 48-man Savage raid called Delibrum. Yeah, I guess, I mean, even if there is one, like, you know, if there was more frequent content like that, I think that would be quite fun. Maybe not 20 man, but 16 man, because you have you know, 2 8-man groups then. It kind of fits with the game. Or 24 man, also is fine, of course. I think there you could do some really cool things. WoW has a lot more fluid combat system. Well, I say fluid, but it doesn't feel bad, the Final Fantasy combat system, once you get used to it. So I don't know, but for let's say a new player, I think the WoW combat system will be much more understandable. Whereas the Final Fantasy one is a bit weird if you are not used to it. HP once commented in an interview he could make a lot more content if he had WoW's budget. Yeah, it's surprising me as well, honestly, because more frequent raid releases, even if they are not totally tied to the story, it would make a quite big improvement in WoW. And I have no idea why they're not doing it, because I don't think designing bosses is very hard. I really don't think so. I think it's actually really, really easy. Now, I'm not talking about the aesthetic design. I'm not an expert there. It hasn't, you know, this is not my area at all. At all. I cannot speak for the art aspect of it. But the mechanical aspect, the programming, the coding of a boss, there is no way that is a hard thing to do. They should be able to create a 5 boss raid in between the other raids. In terms of just the pure mechanics and the design of it as well, because I guess that's where you would lose the most time, actually, not necessarily putting in the mechanics into the game. I would guess that would take probably 3 to 4 weeks of work. Obviously, I don't know, but that's what I would guess. It takes 3 to 4 weeks to do that. You know, why is it not happening more often? If you have a huge team, I don't think there's a huge team necessary for it either. That's the thing. You could, in fact, work on parallel. While one team creates a raid, the other one could create another raid. I'm just saying 3 to 4 weeks, assuming it's a non-parallel procedure, you know? And you have, like, a small team working on the design, a small team working on the coding. That's the thing that WoW definitely has, which Final Fantasy doesn't have, and God bless for that. Some random weird-ass grind that you have to do instead of doing Savage. The fact that you go into Savage and only have to do Savage and not some other weird shit is just amazing. It is so good. Incredibly good. Like, it's unreal. I didn't think it was possible up until I played this progress. I never get this argument of saying, why do you think they would care about the race war first? I just, like, you gotta be living behind the moon if you don't understand that the race war first is a massive event for Blizzard. I don't know how people can disregard it. It's crazy to me. I will never understand it. Yet there are so many people that say it. So, I don't know. Maybe, I often wonder, like, am I the stupid one? Like, it could be. But at the same time, I see all the stats of how much viewership it gets. It's so crazy. I don't know. Anyways, no flame today. We said we are a positive WoW streamer today. Boys, WoW is great.